Hello, and I'm Alex, and wrestling. So I'm taking a different approach to my other videos about wrestling. This is more of a autopsy of sorts of a company that existed a while ago. You may know what it is if you're a wrestling fan. If not, I don't know. The company in question is WCW. Now, you know how they say, like, competition is kind of like a form of quality control? You want to make the best product possible so that people come to you instead of your competition for their product. There's no bigger refutation of this idea than the existence of WCW in the late 90s. It was in hot competition with the WWF. Basically, it was the Goliath in this situation. I mean, WCW had a huge production company behind it. It was funded by Ted Turner. By all rights, should have won. The thing was, after a certain period of success, the company kind of just flamed out. And the way it did this was, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why WCW failed as a company, but most people point to what is called the finger poke of doom as the, I guess you would say, the death knell of the company. Now basically the whole point of the series is I'm going to do in-depth, a show-by-show analysis of how WCW got progressively worse after the finger poke of doom. But in order to do that, we need to get to the finger poke of doom. Okay, so, context. What do we need to know about? There's 3 things you need to know about. 1, the NWO. 2, Hulk Hogan. And 3, Goldberg. Now, this is more or less my interjection of what made WCW successful in the late 90s. The way that WCW found success, Eric Bischoff took over basically creative aspects of the show. What he did to one-up WWF is basically just buy their talent from them. So the biggest get, arguably, from WWF to WCW was Hulk Hogan. But the thing was, Hulk Hogan was already old by the time he was purchased, quote-unquote, by the WCW. To give you a sense of perspective, Hulk Hogan was headlining the first WrestleMania 10 years before he entered the WCW. And when he entered the WCW, he did so with the same old Hulkamania gimmick that was, losing steam. So they had Hulk Hogan, which I guess is good, but it didn't. The Hulkamania thing wasn't doing what it was doing before because people were losing interest in it. How to solve this? Well, this is probably one of WCW's only independent successes outside of maybe a couple other things. And even this they stole from NJPW, which is New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it's the NWO. Now, what's the NWO? Okay, so 1995, both Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who were Razor Ramon and Diesel in WWF, left WWF. They went to WCW for the big old contracts. They leave, and they enter WCW under their real names. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. They're called the Outsiders. It's like an invasion angle before the invasion angle that happened in WWF. WCW tried to frame this like it was WWF wrestlers invading WCW. It was relying a lot on the audience and their meta-knowledge and all that stuff. The Nash and Hall enter as the Outsiders, and they announce that they have a third member of their Outsiders group, who's the remaining outsider. Turns out it's Hulk Hogan, and he turns heel for the first time ever, at least to mainstream pro wrestling knowledge, and he heads up what is called the NWO. After this point, WCW starts gaining attention. People start looking at it. People start paying attention. It's actually presenting, competition for WWF. And then comes the problems. The NWO, as good of an idea as it was at the time, it starts becoming a centerpiece for the entire company. It starts overshadowing WCW as a wrestling promotion. And eventually, the NWO encompasses like half the roster, which is insane. The NWO starts getting stale in and of itself. Hollywood Hulk Hogan, the heel version of Hulk Hogan, starts getting stale again. And it took a much shorter amount of time in order for this to happen, to the point where the stable breaks up. There's a schism. Kevin Nash heads up the face version of the NWO, which is the Wolfpack, and Hogan heads up the heel version of the NWO, which is NWO Black and White, NWO Hollywood, basically the same NWO it was before. So meanwhile, while that's happening, Goldberg. So Goldberg is probably the second independent creation that WCW makes by itself that is actually a bona fide success. He goes on an undefeated streak through the WCW. He picks up the US title, he picks up the world title, and he's their big, monster face. And in the face of the NWO, he seems like the only one that can, defeat them. Goldberg's whole gimmick is that he doesn't lose. That's basically where his fire, his heat comes from. That's why people give a shit about him. He goes on this undefeated streak. It goes from September 22nd, 1997 to December 26th, 1998. Now, how does he lose? Okay, he's in a match at Starrcade with Kevin Nash, who at this point is the face, the good guy, the fan favorite, head of the NWO Wolfpack. This match is not spectacular. Kevin Nash isn't a very good wrestler. Goldberg is also not a very good wrestler unless he is just squashing people, because that's what he was taught to do. Not only are they not great wrestlers, but the match is way overbooked. So, Nash explains it in shoot interviews as having to protect Goldberg because he's a guy that's, basically built up to be a machine, and he didn't want to, I guess they didn't want to make that go away necessarily just yet. So, there's a run-in by Disco Inferno, for some reason. Goldberg beats the shit out of him. There's a run-in by Bam Bam Bigelow, for some reason. Goldberg beats the shit out of him. And then, and this is all while Kevin Nash is on the ground. Like, basically, Goldberg slams him, and he's on the ground he's overselling that shit for God knows how long. These run-ins occur. And then, there's a third run-in by Scott Hall, who teases Goldberg with, like, a cattle prod. Like a literal cattle prod. He hits him with the thing, and then Goldberg goes, and then he falls to the ground. And then Nash, who gets up, didn't see any of this happening, according to the logic of this match. Just gets up, powerbombs Goldberg, who's on the mat, and he doesn't seem to question, like, hey, why is Goldberg on the mat, even though I didn't do anything to him. He just picks him up, powerbombs him, pins. He wins the belt. He breaks Goldberg's undefeated streak. Whether or not it was time to end Goldberg's streak, I personally think it would have been good, because he was getting a little boring, maybe, I don't know. I mean, this was in context of 8-year-old me, so I don't really remember all that much. They also could have booked the match a bit better, like not have the million run-ins, not have the cattle prod happen, because, why? You just get a fluky pin on Goldberg. What's the point? Why oversell all this shit? It doesn't make any sense. It's not this. A lot of people say this is what killed WCW, and I don't agree. Because Nash at the time was kind of hot, and people liked him, and good. What happened after this is really what killed WCW, and this is the finger poke of doom at this point. So next Nitro, Nash is the champion. Goldberg is supposed to get his rematch on this Nitro, and then some hokey Deus Ex Machina wrestling booking happens. Goldberg's arrested for like stalking or something. It's all bogus, fake shit. Anyway, Nash challenges Hogan to a match. There's going to be no Goldberg versus Nash match, so there has to be a match for the main event. So the main event will be Nash versus Hogan. There's a couple of things that happen in this moment. That main event is changed. So it's no longer Goldberg versus Nash. It's now Hogan versus Nash. And as soon as that is announced, Tony Schiavone on commentary, having been told to say this, gives the results for the Monday Night Raw. The main event for the Monday Night Raw that's already pre-taped. Nitro was live, Raw was pre-taped. And Schiavone says, infamously, don't change the channel because we have insider knowledge that Mick Foley's going to be winning the World Championship, the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And he says, Mick Foley used to wrestle for us under the name Cactus Jack. That'll put butts in the seats. Cue around 600,000 people flipping over to WWF to watch that instead. And not only that, not only was there that disastrous decision to just give away the ending to Raw, which had the opposite effect of what people thought it would have, because people like Mick Foley, any wrestling fan would have known this at the time, but I guess Eric Bischoff thought at the time, nobody gives a fuck about Mankind, no one gives a fuck about Mick Foley, oh wait. So not only that happens, but at the same time, the main event on Nitro is this. Nash comes out. Hogan comes out. They're in street clothes. They have their fists taped. They've been feuding for a while before this. The NWO, Hollywood has been feuding with NWO Wolfpack. This is almost an interesting match. Granted, people flipped over to watch Mick Foley, but this is almost interesting. This is almost good. I kind of want to see this. So they just kind of, circle each other a little bit. And they look like they're making faces at each other like, I'm gonna get you, you better get ready for this. And then, Hogan walks up to Nash, and he pokes him right in the chest. Just a poke to the chest. And Nash throws himself to the mat, as if he were shot. People said, shotgun blast, cannonball. Those are apt descriptions. He did oversell that poke. And Hogan covers him. And 1, 2, 3. Hogan is your new world champion. This story has been told 100 times in different ways. Because it's so bad. And people were so pissed off by this ending. Because it was just an affirmation. Oh, there's more. I forgot. So not only does that happen, Nash turns heel, as does all of the NWO Wolfpack. They turn heel, basically. And anyone who doesn't turn heel is basically beaten and thrown out of the club, out of the NWO club. And the NWO is reformed. So this is basically the arc of the NWO. It's formed, it grows, it splits, and then it comes back together. In almost basically the same way it was in the beginning. So basically, there was no arc. So not only does that happen, the only face in the company, basically, at this point, Goldberg, re-enters the arena. He runs to the ring, and he gets his ass kicked, and he gets tased, and he gets handcuffed to the ring, and they spray NWO on his back. Oh, I'm sorry. He gets tased while he's in a torture rack by Lex Luger, who I think comes out and everybody's like, ooh, Lex Luger's here, and then he turns heel, because fuck. And he just starts giving the torture rack to Goldberg. And, Scott Hall's tasing Goldberg. And then Goldberg is handcuffed to the ring, and NWO sprayed on his back, and they sprayed the back of his head. That's pretty much it. That's the end of that Nitro. And I'm not saying, like, Goldberg's great, and I'm not saying that he was even really an interesting wrestler at this point, but, I mean, here's what basically just happened. It was WCW saying to you, there are no good guys. Even the people that you thought were good are not good. The heels win, the bad guys win. Bad guys always win. Because bad guys are smart, and they always outsmart the good guys. Not only are there no good guys, but the one good guy that comes to be good is, basically murdered. And there's no hope. And fuck you. And that was the whole point of that ending. And not only that, but they also said, oh, by the way, all that stuff that you think is boring and you think we should change, yeah, we're not going to do that. And that's pretty much the end of WCW right there. I mean, they went on for a couple more years, and I'm going to be talking about that extensively because I hate myself. That's when the ratings plunged and never came back up. And that's when the WWF took off. Started doing, had the run with Mick Foley, Stone Cold, all that stuff. And WCW was still just languishing with the NWO. And Hulk Hogan, who had in his contract that he could basically just say he had complete creative control over his character, which is dumb. So this is kind of a prologue to what's coming, which is just a real deep look at how WCW just got worse and worse and worse after this. Hope you liked it.